Generally Famous is proudly brought to you by Trade Depot. Generally famous for saving Kiwis thousands. Call into one of the stores or visit online at tradedepot.co.nz. Kia ora, Aotearoa, and welcome to Generally Famous. Great to have you along. I'm Simon Bridges, and each week I talk to generally famous but always interesting guests about life, love, and what makes them tick. This week I have Dame Denise L'Estrange-Corbet, New Zealand fashion designer, businesswoman, founder of World with Francis Hooper. Welcome, Denise, to Generally Famous.
Thank you, Simon.
Now, Dame Denise L'Estrange-Corbet, there's a lot going on there, but you weren't always a dame, to state the obvious. So I want to go back. You're born in New Zealand.
Yes.
And whereabouts in New Zealand? I want to say Remuera. I feel like I've read that somewhere.
You're right.
I mean, you probably weren't
call
physically.
It Remuera.
Remuera.
Born in Remuera.
So were you posh in terms of, I mean, I know you can't probably physically remember being born. It's probably a good thing you can't. But was it, it wasn't working class. That's what I'm trying to say.
We weren't posh. But both my parents, who were educated in India, went...
Was that a sort of a colonial thing?
Yes. And so they both went to boarding school at 5 and came home at 18. And they sat the Cambridge exams in England. And so they were fluent in Hindustani and English. So I guess they had wealthy parents. So... yeah.
And you had I feel like I'm right to say you had a sister. Was she older, younger?
I have a sister and a brother.
Wonderful.
Sister's older, brother's younger.
Right. So there you are in what did your I'm probably being stereotypical, but I feel like it wasn't yesterday. Was it your dad was working? What did he do?
He was a mechanic. He was also a wool classer.
Right.
I think he's cars.
And right, well, he might have known, who was that really? McLaren.
Yeah, no, probably not.
He was in Remuera. I learnt that a week
maybe.
or so ago. Anyway, that's...
I don't think we had a flash car like that, no.
Right. Okay.
He was a car mechanic, as far as I know.
Right, and what I also know is that you've said your childhood was memorable, but for all the wrong reasons. And I know... fundamentally, and you obviously without the detail, but at about 3, you effectively, with your mother and your siblings, escaped to London.
With my sister, yes. My father was an alcoholic, very bad alcoholic, and my mother, he used to beat her, and so she decided one day that she'd had enough, and she packed us up, and we got on a ship. And went to Southampton.
Do you remember anything about that ship
I remember
trip?
being on the ship. I remember riding a rocking horse on the ship. Sounds
like the sort of thing I'd buy at World for...
Yep.
I was going to say high, but I'm sure very reasonably priced rocking horse.
And when they come
bling.
in, I'm going to call your wife and tell her.
This is a little off-air joke. My wife has just bought a giraffe with the lights or something hanging out of its mouth. But anyway, that's another story. So... And then you're in London. I mean, how long were you in London for? Because I know, obviously, I know at some level you had to have come back here at some point. But your childhood years were in London.
Oh yes, till I was 27. 27, yeah. So educated in London, brought up in London, blah blah.
Did you have anything to do with your dad in that time?
He used to ring us at Christmas because, of course, in those days you had to go through an operator. You couldn't just pick the phone up and ring someone. So it was like, oh, okay, Dad's written and he's going to call on this day before Christmas, and you had to sort of hope you didn't get cut off. And so he did used to call us like once a year, but otherwise he wrote letters to my mum.
Right.
And then when I was 14, they were reconciling.
Right.
And so I was really excited about that. I was excited about leaving London, leaving the life I had in London, not necessarily London, it wasn't London's fault. And we were going to be in New Zealand for my 14th birthday. And so we sold everything that we had, which was not a lot, but, you know. And we were leaving, I think, around mid-February to come back to New Zealand. And then in January, beginning of January, I was at school, and I remember over the tannoy hearing, will Denise L'Estrange-Corbet come to the headmistress's office? And I thought, oh, was that me? Because I was daydreaming, of course, in French, I remember. And I said to my friend, did they just ask for me to go to the headmistress's office? And she said, I don't know. And anyway, it's lunchtime. So they said, we'll meet you where we normally meet. And I said, oh, okay. And I thought, I kept thinking, shit, what have I done? What have I done? Because you don't go. And her surname was Vaughan Davis, and everyone called her VD.
Oh, is there anyone who doesn't have a hyphenated name in this story?
No, but of course VD was a venereal disease. So everyone called her VD, and I thought, oh my God, she's heard that I've called her that. Oh my God. And
had you?
Not.
Of course you had. You had a guilty conscience.
Everybody had. Because she had false teeth, and she used to stand on the podium. But every morning at hymns, her teeth used to come out while she was singing, and she'd fumble and sort of put them back in again. And she used to drink a lot too. And people had a wig, and people used to go, "Oh God, VD's drunk again." And her teeth fell out, and we'd all giggle. And we're talking 2,000 girls, okay, in London.
What's the school called?
It was called Garrett Green,
right.
Garrett Green School for Girls,
right.
in Tooting. And so, you know, walk into her office, I'm thinking, oh, God, what have I done? And I got there, and she was like, hello, Denise, come in. I thought, oh, God, this is weird, because I'd never been to her office. And my uncle was in there. And I was like, oh, hi, Uncle Arthur. What are you doing here? And he's like, oh, look, your mum's outside in a taxi. We're just going to go home. And I said, oh, okay. And I got in a taxi, and I'd never been in a black cab, so I was very excited. I was like, my God, you can sit on this side or you can sit on that side, because in a car you can't do that. And I said to my mum, what's going on? She goes, we just need to go home. And I said, someone died? Oh, God, no, someone's died. And I named everyone that I hoped would die. So I said, my grandmother died. She said, no. I was like, oh, okay. Then it must be someone that I like. So I went through everyone, and it was no. And I said, last of all, it's the dog, isn't it? It's the dog's died. And she said, no, the dog's not died. And I said, oh, well, I can't think of anyone else that I would worry about. And so we got home, and my grandmother opened the front door. And as soon as I looked at her, I said, oh, my God, it's Dad. It's Dad. And it was. He had died. And so, I was 13. And it was just before we were coming home. And we just got a telegram saying, don't come. He's buried. Yeah.
Gosh, isn't it amazing? It's like those sort of sliding doors type things, a different life you could have had potentially if it had all sort of worked out. I mean, whether it would have or not, we obviously don't know. But
I remember going to the corner of the hall and sliding down the wall, and my grandmother just standing there and watching, because she had no empathy at all. And I just collapsed. I couldn't cope with the fact that we'd come so close, yet it was so far. You know, we had saved up and we had our airfares, and I'd never been on an aeroplane, and the excitement was incredible. We were going to start this new life, and all my friends were so jealous. And it was all gone. And
speaking of empathy, I mean, I think I'm right to say I've seen that you perhaps, maybe this is overplaying, but had a fraught relationship with your mother. I mean, do you have empathy for her? I mean, she I'm presuming from what you said, would have been at some level excited that there was going to be this reconciliation and that they were going back.
I mean,
taken from him.
He'd always said, she was the only woman he loved. And so for them to reconcile, I was really happy and excited. All of us were. And then it was all like, boom, gone. And
fundamentally, you didn't know your father, is my sense of what you're saying.
No, I didn't. I never saw him since I was 3.
And how do you sort of, without, if I feel I've turned this into a shrink's couch, and I'm almost sorry for that, but it's fascinating. You've said it wasn't a happy childhood. I mean, what do you think do you feel even today there's an effect of all of that? I mean, did it make you driven? Did it make you want to be a rebel? Or what would you sort of say from...
No, my grandmother was amazing at making you feel like a piece of shit. She was, should have got an Oscar for it.
This is your father's mother?
No, my mother's mother.
Who you were living with?
Yes. And she would say, you're going to amount to nothing. You're going to be pregnant at 15, wear red lipstick and high heels. That is all you're going to achieve.
Well, 2 out of 3 were right.
I know, exactly. Well, not so high, the heels these days. And that's all she ever said is, you're going to be a nothing. You're going to amount to nothing. You're going to be nothing. And I don't know subconsciously whether that affected me.
You wanted to prove it wrong.
No, I didn't want to prove her wrong. I just thought, you just talk rubbish. I don't even want to listen to what you're saying because I didn't not believe it. But you sort of, when someone says things like that to you all the time.
It's very cruel.
It's very cruel. She was very cruel. And my mum could be quite cruel too. I don't know, my mother always used to tell me I was adopted. And I just used to cry. And then she'd say, no, you're not. You're not adopted. Sorry, I was just joking. And it just used to
It's not very funny.
It's not funny at all.
No.
I was little. I was 3. And she used to say this all the time. Well, you're adopted. And I used to think, oh my God, am I adopted? And if you don't behave, you're going to go back to your real mother. And it was just, it was just mindfuck. Sorry if I'm allowed to use that word.
You are. It's my podcast and I allow you. Now, you're then several more years in London. Why'd you come back to New Zealand?
I was working in Japan. After I'd done my fashion course, I went to work for a fashion designer in London. He was opening a store in Japan. He took me with him to help with that. And I thought, oh, look, I'm halfway to New Zealand. I might as well go and see where I was born. And I only came for 2 weeks because I thought it was going to be really boring. There's not much going to be going on in New Zealand. And my father's brother lived here with his wife. And they took me from the top of the north to the bottom of the South Island in their Mercedes. And we had...
Oh, you were posh.
We had the most wonderful time. No, and he kept saying, put the radio down, I can't hear. And I was like, oh, God, he's so old. And she and I she became like my surrogate mother. She never had children. And I wasn't related to her ever. No. I mean, through blood. No. But when she died, I remember her in the hospital and she said to me, if I could have one wish, it was that you were my daughter. Oh. And she was I just loved her to bits.
Sometimes people without children can be almost better at it.
She called a spade a spade. Don't mess with her. But she was so lovely and so kind and someone I always went to for advice. I remember when starting the business, I went to her and I said, what should we do? We want to either get a house or start a business. And she said, don't get the house. The business will get you the house. The house will not get you a business. So we decided to pool our money and...
Was it good advice?
It was great advice, and it was the right advice.
My parents, and they were very good parents, by the way. My mother still is. My father's no longer with us. But I think every bit of advice they've given me has been wrong at every point of time. Don't go to Oxford. Don't go to politics. Don't get out of politics. What do you... Anyway, that's by the way. So just briefly, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but... So, given that, growing up in the UK, now you've been here, are you a Kiwi or a Pom? Or a Peewee?
I've always been a Kiwi. I've always had a New Zealand passport.
Yes. Not that it really matters, but is it
I've always thought myself as a Kiwi because I was born here.
Do you feel English?
No,
British?
I don't feel English, but I do have a great love for it. And I've got so many friends there from school and... work and people. When I go back, I have so many people to see.
Because over here you sound British. Over there you probably sound like a Kiwi.
Well, they all say, oh God, you've got a funny twang. You talk with a twang. And I'm like, no, I don't. And then I come back here and people say, oh, you're so English. So bit of both, I suppose.
So what you're telling me, I think I heard this right. When you were in Japan, you were already, I don't want to put it too kind of fancy, but you were in fashion at a level. You were working in that.
Yeah.
And were you always destined for fashion, do you think?
No, I think I was actually destined. I wanted to be a teacher at school, an English teacher. And I was going to university to do that, and I turned it down and my place and decided that I'd go and work for a bit because I just wanted money. I just wanted to earn some money. I had no money. And so things just sort of fell into place. And I found that I really needed something that challenged me, and the only thing that challenged me was the creative area. useless at art, always wanted to be an artist, just can't paint to save my life. So I guess fashion was all part of that group, and it still does challenge me, and I need that. Once I do something and I've learned how to do it, I get very bored very quickly. I've got, the attention span of a gnat. So I found a very creative role. And with fashion, of course, the seasons change and you have to completely reinvent yourself.
Yes.
So it's always new.
Always changing.
You have the end of winter, then you have summer. And overnight, literally, the shop is completely transformed. Everything's gone and all the new stuff is in. So you've got to always be working. And I don't think there's any other profession that completely changes twice a year.
Yes.
Like completely. Out the door, everything's short-sleeved for summer. And it has to be different. It has to be completely different. Then you don't have an artist who does 2, exhibitions a year, and
Yes.
his work is, or her work is completely different. So it really is a very challenging position to be in.
I bet. I know that when you started World in the late 80s, 89 or something.
89, yeah.
The story goes you had $400 in your pocket and you're with Francis, I think, at that stage. So tell me about that. What possessed you? What was your hope? How did it go?
I was working for a fashion designer, and he was working in the shop next door for a fashion shop. Well, it wasn't a designer. And we just used to chat and say how bored we were. And one day he just said to me, why don't we go into business together? How much money have you got? And I said, $200. How much have you got? And he said, 200. He said, well, let's pool it and start our own business. And I said, I'm going to have to think about this. And he still ribs me about it today that I had to say, because he said anyone else would have bitten my arm off. And you go, I've got to think about it. I said, well, I'm the more sensible one. And so we did. We pooled our money, and that was it, the beginning of World.
And it's been amazing. What's World about?
Well, it's quite funny. We had to go on this program years ago. We were asked to go on this TV program, and it was all about your brand and what the experts thought about your brand. And I remember Francis and I had to go over to Waiheke for the day, and we were with this expert who, I don't know, was the head of something at Watties. And he'd sat us down, and he had a whiteboard, and it was all filmed, and he was saying, that's how you run your business. And we both sat there like, oh, really? Oh, God, that's boring. And then he said, now the name, you need to change your name. And we both went, what? He said, no, you have to change the name World. You cannot have a company called World. I mean, what does it mean, World? What does it mean? You can't. You need to change your name. And the guy who was running the show said, well, what do you think? And we said, no. And they were like, no, you've got to change your name because, we've brought these experts in and that's their advice. And we said, well, no, not changing it. He's wrong. And we just stuck to
Actually, it is. I never really thought of this. It is a very ambitious name.
Well, we
It's
all
not
have...
kind of, you didn't call it, Teatito or something. You went big.
We went big, but we always have stocked things from all over the world.
Yes.
And that's why, and we still do. I mean, the giraffe holding the chandelier that your wife bought.
Yeah, well, where's that from?
Italy.
Yeah, of course it is. The aesthetic of... Let's not mention the giraffe anyway. It winds me
Okay,
up.
all right.
I don't even... Yeah, no, look. The aesthetic of World, or is that always changing? Or would you say there are some basic kind of things that is your look and what you're about?
What I've always said is it was never contrived. It is us. It's just an extension of our personalities. So we didn't think, let's do this and let's do that because then people think we're really cool. And let's do. I mean, it just never was that. It was just we do what we like. And it's quite different from everyone else and how we think and what we stock and what we think is amazing. And that, puts you aside from the rest because it's who you are.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be anyone else. We're not trying to emulate, a shop overseas, which so many people do. If you know what you're doing, you do it yourself.
Yeah.
You're the leader, you're not the follower.
I think that's right. I think if you do what's as kind of corny as it sounds, what's in your heart, you go for it. It tends to go well.
Yeah, and it's, it's like...
And if it doesn't, at least you're doing what was you.
Well, there's fashion designers, who copy overseas trends and overseas looks. That's not design, that's copying. There's a big difference between creating and just copying someone else.
What would you say the state of the, in quotes, fashion industry or rag trade was like then?
Oh, it was...
Was there anything going on?
It was, yes, there was. I mean, in '89, shops shut at 1 o'clock on a Saturday and were closed all day Sunday.
Right too.
Which was absolutely terrible, I have to say, because we always had women queuing up wanting to buy a giraffe holding a chandelier, and we're like, we're shut.
Yeah, if only it was just a giraffe. Anyway.
But it was very community-based. I remember, we had to write out receipts by hand, and we'd go in the morning and we had a rubber stamp, and we'd stamp all the tissue paper with our logo, like we never got it printed, and we stamped our bags, and, you're always busy doing things, and there was a shop in Vulcan Lane called Monsoon, and Greg Main was the owner.
It was all racy swimsuits, wasn't it?
No,
that's
a different Monsoon. Okay. Yeah, you're thinking of the ladies' Monsoon.
Well, I'm not.
This was the man's zoot suits. They did zoot suits.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and he used to go every morning around to all the shops. He's going, all right, how you going? Because talk like that. How you going? So how much have you made? How much have you taken? And he'd ask everyone, and everyone would tell him, it's incredible. We've taken this. Oh, good. And he was like the godfather, I guess, of the street. And all the owners of the stores knew the owners because we normally worked in the shops. Whereas now, you wouldn't know who owned anything because they're not in the stores, even though we still are. And it was just very different. And there was no imports, as in China and things like. It was New Zealand made. There were the pepper trees, the Thornton Halls.
Oh, yeah, I remember them.
All the Jag,
Yes.
all the local made brands.
Yes, my buddy, you won't know him, but Barry Kirkley was, I think, the general manager for Pepper Tree and then Jag. And but anyway, now you were though. Yep, okay. You've told me there was a fashion industry at a level then in New Zealand. You were though a pioneer, and I would say, because as you say, it's an extension of your personality. And my says, you were original, quirky, outspoken, maybe a maverick at a level. My sense is that one of the things, and I haven't done huge research on this, but I just have the sense one of the things you were one of the first into was the catwalk. And that whole kind of sense of that in Fashion Week and both here and abroad. And I know, if I cast my mind back, you had Hine Elder with the nuclear-free top, which, seemed very radical at the time. The flag, I should say. And then you had a drag queen, which would have been very radical and, on the edge at that point in time, although not so much.
I think that was the Weller Fashion Awards, and they were showed on television, and I remember after it was filmed and the drag queens, or drag artistes as they like to be called, came out, the person who ran the Fashion Week said, look, there's a good chance we've just heard from TV NZ that your section might not be on when it's broadcast because you've used drag queens. And we said, well, that's all right. We don't actually care whether it's shown or not. We didn't do it to be on TV. We did it because we loved it and we support them. Anyway, it was shown, and the two drag queens, Buckwheat and Bertha, both ended up getting a cooking show out of it, which was hilarious because they were both so drunk all the time on this television show, and they just used to whip up God knows what. I don't think they cooked anything, and it's hilarious. It's still online, and we watch it sometimes and just laugh.
Brilliant.
They got the spin-off.
But you were always at Fashion Week?
No.
The importance of those sort of catwalk events, or not?
It depends whether it's. I mean, it's so changed now. It's all about influencers, whatever they are, in front rows. And...
Are you an influencer?
No, I'm not, and I don't ever.
Oh, you are too. Oh, well, you're not on social media.
I'm not. I don't do any social media.
Why?
Because it's just such a waste of time. All the time people spend taking photos of their breakfast and what they had for lunch. Who the hell cares? I don't care. I don't want to know. And I don't particularly want people to know what I'm doing or where I'm doing it. People are just living their lives through their phones, and they think everyone wants to see what they're doing. And they don't. I went into town yesterday and I was walking past a shop and there was this young girl in a shop. She was a customer and she was taking a photo of herself in the mirror, obviously for her Instagram. And I actually thought, don't.
No.
There's nothing there that is going to make someone want to be you.
Yes.
Just do something else. Go and read a book or go and educate yourself. You just don't need to be doing that. And
mate was telling me about a similar, he'd been out to an island and on his jet skier and literally these boats cruise in, the girls get off, late teens, they take photos of themselves and they leave. How tragic. And how about enjoying the sun and the beach and the...
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think there's so much time lost and so much time where you would have been working. Because people today, like while they're at work, they're just Instagramming, they're, using the computer at work to put all their stuff up. And it's so pointless. What is the point, unless you're getting paid, of doing it? What is the point? I don't get it. And
I'm going to ask you an overly deep, well, maybe it's not question at this point, because you've just given me this fun. What is the point? What is the point of fashion? Well, or is in the end a bit... if my wife kicking me under the table, she's not here, or is it a bit superficial in of itself?
If we didn't have fashion, Simon, you'd be sitting opposite me in the nude.
Well, I might not. I might have a boring blue button shirt on with boring blue corduroys and some cheap kind of Blundstone shoes that I bought from somewhere that you know where.
It's fashion. Like it or not, you bought it in a what shop? A fashion shop. Okay. Clothes are fashion, and it says a lot about the person and why you made that choice.
Yes.
And whether you realise it or not, if you see something and you think, oh, that's really nice, I'm going to buy that. Why? Why are you buying it? Otherwise, we should all just be dressed in one colour.
I'm giving you a statement about myself, which is that I'm a boring conservative guy who wears boring shirts without any patterns on them. Mind you, that's better than those middle-aged male shirts with all the patterns on them.
Yeah, so that's fashion gives us choices.
And they tell us who we are.
It does, and it puts you in your box. It's like people who drive cars. What car do you drive, and does it denote who you are? Like,
yes.
I always think people who drive Audis are...
Did you see the car I came in today?
No, I didn't. Is that an Audi?
It's an old beaten-up Audi.
Oh, right.
To be fair, that's okay. Say what were you going to say?
I was going to say they're shocking drivers. They just don't care about anyone else. They put their foot down. It's like, I've got a name for them. And it's like, oh, God, one of those. BMW people aren't far behind. And four-wheel drive people don't even get me started on the bloody Range Rover.
The worst ones are those, the SUVs... that are in the name of, we talked about McLaren, I don't think they do one, but the Aston Martin or the Porsche or the Lamborghini SUV, well, they're fast sports cars. They've only made an SUV to sort of make use of the label, and if you've got one of those, you're a fashion victim.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And they go, oh, my car goes, 240. Well, my car does 100... 0 to 100 in 3 weeks.
On a downhill with wind behind it.
Yeah, well, Pebbles said.
And by Pebbles, of course, you mean your daughter Pebbles.
I can fart and get further up College Hill than I do in your car. And I said, well, then get out of my car.
What's the fashion sector industry like now?
Oh, it's so different.
I mean, it's changed remarkably, but...
There was a point in fashion where... every person I knew wanted to be a fashion designer. I want to be a fashion designer. And they do these courses and they come out of these courses and they think they're fully fledged fashion designers. And it's, you start at the bottom. Everyone starts at the bottom. You don't come out of business school and become, the manager of the BNZ. You have to work your way up. And, there's a lot of fashion shops and there's just so much of everything now. My perception is, and I have some more than just academic knowledge of it, that it would be, and you might say this is rich coming from someone who's been in politics, but bitchy. It can be
sort of venal, gossipy. Is that fair, or is that a caricature of it?
Well, it depends. Like I would imagine if you your group of friends was just fashion people, it would be awful. It just would be horrible. Most of my friends, I've got a few in the fashion industry, but most of them aren't.
Right.
And they're more in the arts, and just don't get into that. Anyway, we do have a bitch. Of course we do. Everyone does.
Yes.
But I think whatever profession you're in,
yes,
you're going to get that.
Recently, Natalie and I have moved from Tauranga to Auckland as we embark on our new life with our 3 kids, Emlyn, Harry and Jemima. And so in doing that, we bought a few things from home, our old home, but we've also needed to make the odd purchase or two. And in looking for a dryer, I looked no further than Trade Depot. What I loved about Trade Depot was 3 things. It's 100% Kiwi owned, and that matters to me as a proud Kiwi. Secondly, it's the product range. Over 4,500 top quality home improvement products. So much range, so much choice. And finally, with Trade Depot, you'll always get a great price. Low prices, always. So when you're out there, maybe you've moved or maybe you just need something new for your kitchen, for your bathroom, go to Trade Depot. It's New Zealand's largest online home improvement store. It has free delivery with minimum spends in Auckland, Hamilton and Christchurch. T's and C's of course apply. Check out tradedepot.co.nz or call into one of their 3 stores in Auckland, Christchurch or near the airport in Hamilton at their new superstore. Fast fashion, you know what I mean by that?
Throw
I'm
away.
talking of quality.
Throw away. Quality, every time. Fast fashion, unfortunately, is, the $5 T-shirt. You wash it, it falls apart. You're not going to take it back. You throw it away. It goes into landfill. But if you buy something and it's made well, it's going to cost you more, of course, particularly if it's made in New Zealand because we have minimum wage. And you can pretty much guarantee it's going to be well made and it will last you. So you can keep it. And if you love it, you want to keep wearing it. You want to wear it season after season. So it's just about how you value things. And, the $5 T-shirt, who made it? Where's it from? How can they retail it at $5 and make a profit?
And I think as we've all got more environmentally conscious, it becomes an even
that's
stronger point.
the new thing now, which it does grate on me a bit. All these huge corporate companies.
Oh,
we're saving the planet. Our shampoo is plant-based. It's like, it's got an essence of a daffodil in it or something. That's not going to change the world. And our bottles
greenwashing, they call it.
Oh,
it's
please.
Greenwashing.
They just jump on a bloody bandwagon to be relevant.
Yes.
Why didn't you think of this 10 years ago? Oh, because it wasn't relevant then, but it's relevant now. They just follow these trends, and I find it all so fake, to be honest.
It's sure it's actually real and there's something behind it.
What is?
Well, what you're talking about, done badly, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
I think some mean and live it, but I think fundamentally you make a point. Starving or plus-size models?
Right. Are you using the word models?
I think I know what I mean when I say models. I'm talking about walking down a catwalk or in a.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let me answer my own question. I'm for you. For you, I do a little bit of that. It is about you, but it's also about me. Let's be honest.
Meghan Markle.
Don't even compare this.
Sorry.
Don't even compare this podcast to that podcast. We're having a real conversation here. We're making some points that matter.
You're talking about yourself. He's already told everyone what shirt he's got on, his shoes, his jeans.
Okay, well, you don't
Have I said what I'm wearing? No. Sorry, Simon, it's your show. Keep going.
I'm not going to characterise what you're wearing because I might get that wrong. Well,
Probably.
you answer for me then. I'm going to put it to you. Starving or plus-size models?
Right, okay. Let's be honest here. I said this before. When Glassons had the mannequins that someone complained about because they were too thin, and I said, clothes look better on thin people. And I'm saying it again, they do. Okay? If you're a size 8 or a 10, you can wear a very tight T-shirt dress. If you're a size 26, you can wear a tight T-shirt dress, but it's not going to look great and it's not going to do anything for you. So let's just be real here. You can wear it. No one's going to stop you from wearing it. People might say not nice things about it, but that's up to you. Yeah. And if you're happy wearing that, you go for it. If you want to wear a bikini, go for it. But on a catwalk, you're selling things. You're selling the idea. You're selling the look. And you've got to find as a person things that suit your body shape. No one is perfect. To get that perfect body shape, that model, those people are so few and far between, and that is their livelihood. They are paid because they're 6 foot tall and they're thin. They don't eat, usually. They smoke cigarettes, they drink a lot of coffee.
And that's not good, though.
That's not good, but they have a very limited lifespan. They get to
model.
30, 35, you're out of here. So they have got, say, 15 years, maybe 20, to make all the money they're ever going to make. The huge, vast amounts of money I'm talking about. And so to do that, this is what you do. You starve. You make the choice. They don't have to. No one's bending your arm to do it. You can go and work in the gas station.
Still a reality in the fashion sector, you think? That's
Yeah.
still fundamental.
I mean, again, you've got a fashion designer to go, I'm going to send out, an overweight person. Oh, God, you just want to get good media, okay? Just let's be real here. We are in the fashion industry.
Yeah. You're a designer. Favourite designers of all time?
World. Francis Hooper.
You're on message, and you said you didn't have a brand. That's a good answer. Others?
No.
No, I'm not talking Kiwis.
No.
It's not a sort of a Vivian Westwood or I don't know, someone else.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't follow
All right, moving right along.
anyone particularly. I don't.
Your influences? In terms of what is it? Is it London growing up? Is it punk? Is it I don't know?
All of those things.
Yeah, okay.
It was all of those things. It's just you wherever you are, you absorb what's around you, whether you're conscious of it or not. And living in London all those years, I got to see and meet amazing people and see amazing things and the culture and the time. And I think what you've got to realise is fashion, while some people might not think it's relevant, when you look back through history, you look at a picture and you go, oh, that's the 70s, that's the 80s, that's the 90s, purely because of what the people are wearing and their hairstyles. And that's how, when you look back through history to Elizabethan times, to the Tudor times, you can tell that period by what people are wearing. That fashion is so important. If we just all wore black smocks, for the past 300 years, we would have no idea what era it was. But fashion has a way of stamping.
A lot of Kiwis do that, though, don't they?
What, wear black?
Black uniform.
Usually South Island. Particularly Dunedin. They just love the black down there.
It's something about the weather. But no, I like Dunedin. It's got a lot of character. Just saying, that's the politician.
I mean, friends who've come from London always said to me, God, everyone looks like they're going to a funeral in New Zealand.
Yeah, there is a bit of that.
Because they're always in black.
I think there's a bit. Now, I want to talk about your business at a level, not just briefly. What you've created a serious, significant fashion label and world. What have you? My understanding is you kind of don't like the business of business. What have you learned, though, and what would you tell a 23-year-old or 24-year-old you who was starting out again?
I would say you've got to make your own choices. It's no good listening to the experts who say you should do this, you should do that. If Francis and I had gone to a bank, well, we did, actually, for a loan, and they said no. What do you want? Oh, we want to start a business. Oh, how much money have you got? We've got $200 each. And do you own a house? No. Do you own a car? No. Blah, blah, blah. Do you own any furniture? No. No one's going to give you a loan. And so if you're really passionate about it, you just find a way. You just do it. And I don't listen to anyone. Don't listen to those so-called experts who say, change your brand name because I know what I'm doing because I worked at Waddy's. No, you've just got to. But what you have to have is stamina. And I think that it is head and shoulders above everything else. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't get up 7 days a week and I've got to go in today and it's a nightmare because I've got to deal with this issue or that issue, or all the fabric that's arrived is flawed and I've got to get it sent back and I've got to cut it out and I've got to, that is where people fall down and say, I just don't want to do this anymore. There were so many in New Zealand, young designers starting out, that were heralded in the media and said, they're the next best thing, they're going to be enormous. 3 years down the track, completely burnt out. They bought into it. They did all the parties. They did all the drugs. They did all the drinking and were burnt out. And to not do that, to keep the consistency and the stamina, you've got to go to bed every night tired, wake up really early and just keep doing it and keep yourself sane and know what you're doing. And don't buy into that you're the hottest thing on earth. You're not. You're not.
You've got to do it day in, day out when the going's good.
And when the going is so bad, you just think, I'm going to jack it all in because I've just had it. This is the final straw. But you don't. And you keep going. And, people, actually, we were at dinner last night and a woman came up to us and we'd known her from like 35 years ago. And she was like, hi, guys. And we went, oh, my God, how are you? And she had a very successful business. And she said, oh, look, I've got to say how much I admire you guys. You're still going. And we both went, yeah. And she was like, oh, my God, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. Because we've seen so many fashion companies come and go throughout the years that we've been going. And I can see how it happens because it's too hard. But what we've always thought is we're so entrenched in the business that we move with the times. Like we never see things that far ahead that we can't change them. Like COVID, no one saw that coming. Lots of businesses went under. And we just said, okay, we've got to change things. We've got to do things differently and we've got to adapt to this thing called COVID and the shops are shut. And like a chameleon.
It hasn't all been tough though. Now you're a dame.
Oh.
What does that mean to you?
It means that you don't get upgraded automatically, which is what Francis Hooper told me I would be. Oh, my God, once you become a dame, you are gonna, now you're a dame, you are just going to travel, and every time you step on the plane, they're going to go, turn left. Because you're a dame, I'll be turning right. And I said, oh, okay, that'd be great. Well, of course, that has never happened. So thank you, Francis Hooper, for that very bad bit of information. It hasn't changed anything apart from when you approach people that you want to help you out in your charity events and they hear you're a dame, they do sort of...
They answer the call.
They do, yes, and feel a bit bad if they don't.
Yes.
So
you're respectable now.
Respectable. Well,
are you?
Yeah, I don't know, probably not. But that does hold a certain something in the charity.
Yeah, and on that, because you got it for creativity and community, as I sort of understand it. We've talked the creativity, we haven't talked the community.
Yeah.
Causes that are dear and near to you?
Well, for the past 14 years, I've been working with the IHC. And for the past, must be 7 or 8, I've been the IHC Art Awards ambassador. And then a year ago, I was asked to also be the patron of IHC New Zealand.
Wonderful.
And I love that. I love it to bits. I travel the country and I meet all the artists. And
does it make you emotional?
Very.
Because I get emotional when I...
Very, because, if you think my childhood was hard, some of the things you see are just terrible. People who were, when their parents realised that they had a disability, just left them at the hospital and walked away. And that was it. And so, they still have feelings. And to just be dumped because you don't look or act how they wanted you to be is just heartbreaking for me. And I meet so many of those people. I also meet those people whose parents embraced them, loved them. They have siblings who they see all the time and look after them and take care of them. But the other side to that is the brutal reality of humanity. Yes. And that does really get to me, I just want to hug them because you feel so, like you just feel their pain. Because even if they're non-verbal, they know what you're saying. They can understand you. So it's like being in a room and you're mute and you can hear everyone around talking about you or around you, but not to you or at you. And I always brought up Pebbles, and I said, if ever you see someone with a disability, you go out of your way to say hello. Even if you pass them in the supermarket, you say hello, whether or not they acknowledge you. It's just the fact that you've told them that you know they're there. And I think it's so important for so many of the people that I work with disabilities, that they're given the respect that we all sort of hope that we can get.
The other one I thought you'd talk about, and I don't want to dwell on it hugely, but it's depression. And I know that
I'm a mental health ambassador,
and you have suffered from depression. I think I'm right to say in front of me, and still suffer from. And my only sort of questions to you there was, thank you for what you do, and I know you're involved in advertisements on television and so on, and were just as in fashion a trailblazer in that area. What do you see as the cause of my childhood depression?
And I think for so many people, it is the childhood, things that happen to you that are out of your control. You're young, and those people that are there to look after you and nurture you and love you, and who don't. And how can you not? The first, they say, give me the man, give me the boy and I'll show you the man. The first 7 years of your life are basically, so you get up to 7, and then from 7 to 14 you change, 14 to 21 you change. You get to 28, and 28 is fundamentally all the things that meant things to you till you were 7 reappear at 28. All the characteristics that you had, whether if you were very nice from 1 to 7 and 7 to 14 you were a horrible teenager, you will revert back to being the person you were. And that's about the nurturing and what you went through. And a lot of what I saw and what I had to face as a child, I don't think people should have had to do that. You're made to grow up very fast. And, I tried to commit suicide at 14, which I've been very open about, after my father died, because I just saw, what's the point? What is the point? And at that time, I remember my mother saying to me, don't you tell anyone. Do not bring shame on the family. It's just absolutely unbelievable what you did. And my grandmother just tutting when I walked in the door from the hospital going, God, that child, she just doesn't get it. No one said, are you okay? Do you need to talk to someone? And no one said anything. No one said anything. They said, you can have 2 weeks off and you go back to school. And I went, oh, okay. Today it's so different. If a child at 14 tries to kill themselves, there is a problem. Someone look into it. Someone say, okay, we're going to get help for this child. It's not normal. It didn't happen then.
No.
And it was seen as, you're crazy.
We haven't got everything right, but we've been a very welcome change in that regard.
We have.
How have you? What have you found have been successful tools, ways to deal with depression?
Medication.
Right.
And I think talking about it has been great. And since the adverts were done, I think over 20 years ago, that I was involved in the Like Minds Like Mine. When it's out there in the open arena, it becomes normal. People talk about it. Oh, yeah, I've got that. And I found after that, I remember a guy stopped me in High Street and I was going to work, and he was a very successful lawyer. He had the car, he had the house, he had the trappings, he had the everything. Someone I looked at and thought, oh, my God.
Might have been an Audi.
He's got that. I don't think he had an Audi. No, he wasn't that type of person. He was a nice type of person.
It's a low blow.
And he got in lift with me and he said, oh, hello, I've got what you've got. And I said, oh, sorry? An Audi? No. I said, sorry, what? And he said, depression. And I thought, what? But you're really, successful and amazing. And I didn't think that people like that got it, but they do. And I think it just taught me that anyone can have it, and it's something that is you, And it doesn't define you, and it doesn't mean you're crazy.
Yes.
It just means you're different. You think outside the square, and that's okay.
And what I've found quite interesting is in doing these podcasts is it is often the most hugely successful who are hard on themselves and sometimes suffer from depression. At this point, I should just mention that if anyone listening is struggling with their mental health, many organisations can help.
Yeah.
They include the 1737 helpline, which offers assistance from a trained counsellor. You can text or call them free 24 hours a day.
And use them. Use them.
Absolutely.
That is what they're there for. And it's nothing to be embarrassed about. You've just got to deal with it. It's like if you break your arm, which, oh my God, I can't go to the doctor because I'm really embarrassed I broke my arm. No, of course you go to the doctor and get it fixed. And just because it's in the brain and you can't see it doesn't mean you can't get it fixed.
Absolutely.
And it's no different from any other ailment in your body that you need fixing.
I have 1,000 more questions, but we're nearly at an end. I do want to ask you one random, possibly in the scheme of everything else we've talked about, question. Dalai Lama?
Yes.
You met him?
Yes.
Was he sort of serene and genteel, and did you leave feeling enlightened?
Very much so. I remember Francis saying, "Don't swear, Denise, don't swear in front of him." Because I have a tendency to swear. You might have picked that up. Francis and I were invited to meet him, and when he was in New Zealand, and there was a group of, I don't think even 10 of us sitting in a room, and he came in, and we all got to talk to him and chat to him, and it was incredible, just absolutely incredible.
Did he seem like a holy man?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. There's certain people that you sort of revere and think, it would be like meeting the Queen. You know, you're not going to say a naughty word in front of the Queen, and you're going to be very respectful. It was a bit like that. And there's not a lot of people I hold in high esteem. No. I tend to treat people, not because I'm looking at you, Simon. I
was going to say, are these the feelings I sort of bring out in you?
Audi drivers. I treat generally everyone the same. But I've got to say, I was very respectful towards him, as I would be if I met the Queen.
Yeah, I would love to meet the Queen. I think our days are numbered
very numbered
in that regard, but it would be a singular privilege. Now, we're going to end with a section we call General Knowledge, and I'm going to wrap up by asking the questions I ask. Sort of like that. Every guest.
Oh, God.
Quiz, not really, though, because you still have to give me a few yarns and tell me a few things.
Okay.
First one of three,
yeah.
What single object would you save from your house?
A person or an animal or an object?
No, inanimate.
Inanimate.
I mean, mine would be a giraffe chandelier because it costs so bleeding much. The markup must have been.
Just not going to
the markup must have been remarkable.
No, it wasn't. What would I save? Oh God, I don't know.
Because you would have a lot of things.
Oh, probably photos.
Yeah.
Of my daughter growing up and all the fun things we used to do.
I mean, I don't want to talk about pebbles, but you mentioned it 2 or 3 times. Just on that, you, she strikes me as outspoken, a maverick, some of these things. You do too. So is the point there it runs in the genes?
Well, sometimes when I've said to her, oh, God, what'd you say that for? And she's like, are you serious?
Hello, who's my mother?
With a mother like you? And I always say, well, you're obviously taking after your father in that department. But she's not, of course.
Well, he's not here to defend himself. My sense he's
not.
Quite unassuming chap.
He's not unassuming, but he's a very kind person. Yes. He's a very kind person. I'm not saying I'm not, but there are some people that I just, don't like. But he likes everyone. Wonderful.
There's nothing wrong with that. He could be in politics with that sort of an attitude.
But that's why,
what is
like that probably.
What is the best night out you've ever had?
Oh, my God. The best night out.
Well, I was in a bar with the Dalai Lama.
No, off the top.
And along came an Audi driver.
I don't think the Dalai Lama has an Audi.
You don't
probably
know that.
Just off the top of my head was with some very dear friends who lived in Auckland and were returning to Sydney, and they had us round for dinner with another couple of friends, and we were like up till 5 a.m, and all we did was laugh, and we all came out with stories, and it just was one of the best nights I've ever had. purely because there were 6 of us, and there were the 2 gay couples, and we all went back so far, and the stories and the things we got up to, it was just such a brilliant night. And still, when I see them in Sydney, we talk about that night because it was just such a great night. And I think just catching up with friends.
Wonderful. Yes, well, laughter is, as they say, as cliche as it is.
Medicine.
That's the one. What's the best advice given to you, and who, if you could remember, gave it? And if you can't, make it up.
I don't, because people never gave me... Well, the advice they gave me was always, don't do that. Don't swear. Don't do that. I remember one of my earliest was being pulled in by a teacher at school, and I was sort of mixing with a bad crowd. And we used to turn up for school really late. And she called me in and she said, look, Denise, I'm just going to have a quiet word with you, but you've never been late in your life. Because my mother was so strict. We never had a day off. We were never late. That was it. And she said, never had a day off sick. You've never been late for school, but, past few weeks you've been coming in late, and I know that you're hanging out with a bad crowd. My advice to you would be, don't. That's all I'm saying. And I went away and I thought, yeah, she's right. I'm going to flunk if I carry on doing this. And I stopped moving with the bad crowd. And, yeah. I was just being a bit rebellious and smoking on the way to school, even though I didn't know.
I can't believe that about you.
I was 13. And I remember thinking, what do you do once you puff the smoke? Because I never had a cigarette. They used to get them. And I didn't even know how to smoke. And when the boys were coming towards us, because they had to go to the boys' school, we'd quickly smoke because we thought we were so cool. So stupid, like such a stupid person. But you have to go through those things. And it makes you the person you are. And you look back and think, God, why did I do that? Because that's what we all do. And, so that bit of advice was good advice.
Fantastic. Denise, thank you so much. We've talked punctuality, giraffes, Audis. I think we've talked it all. You've been listening to Generally Famous. There's a new episode out every Wednesday. You can find them at stuff.co.nz/generallyfamous or wherever you get your podcast. If you follow us on Apple or Spotify or in any of the podcast apps, in fact, you'll get the latest episode without waiting. So that's worth doing, isn't it? I'm Simon Bridges. This is Generally Famous. I really appreciate you listening. Generally Famous is proudly brought to you by Trade Depot. Generally famous for low prices, always.